He gets angry and says that Americans are getting ripped off. And if you're not getting as much for your money as you used to, it's because the companies are trying to pull a fast one and shrinking the products little by little, hoping that you won't notice. And he's had enough of this shrinkflation.
I'm Stephanie Keith.
And I am Tara Manjekovic. And we are unapologetically outspoken.
Hey, everybody. Happy Wednesday. We are quite honestly sick of talking about Biden, but we're still going to be talking about Biden today because it's official that the Biden admin has joined TikTok, which is ironic and clearly yet another example of Biden's hypocrisy, considering that the White House banned government agencies from using TikTok last year and ordered them to remove TikTok from any federal government-owned phones and devices. Oh, and by the way, the Chinese company that owns TikTok, ByteDance, is still under review for national security concerns. And just last month, FBI Director Christopher Wray told the Select Committee on the CCP that, quote, TikTok's parent company is effectively beholden to the Chinese government, and that is what in turn creates a series of national security concerns in the Chinese government's ability to leverage that access or that authority, giving Beijing the ability to control data collections on millions of users, which could be used for all sorts of intelligence operations or influence operations. I think the threat is very significant, end quote. So I guess it's only fitting that Biden is beholden to China, just the way Ray said that TikTok is beholden to China. So in a very backwards way, this all makes perfect sense. So this new account is at Biden HQ. And the first post was, in my mind, a very stupid Q&A related to the Super Bowl that was like hinting at the Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce Chiefs conspiracy theory we talked about last week. But fortunately, Biden only had to like say a few words in the clip, or I'm sorry, in the post. But as reported by The Independent, by Monday morning, Biden's new account had more than 30,000 followers, and the video at that point had gotten 3.4 million views and 356,000 likes. So why is Biden on TikTok after banning TikTok? Well, according to a statement from his campaign advisors, it's to, quote, continue meeting voters where they are, end quote. And apparently there was data recently published by Pew Research that said roughly a third of 18 to 29-year-old voters get their news from TikTok. And then The Blaze reported that the latest Economist YouGov poll data indicates that Biden's approval rating is 48% among this age group, which is the highest in any age group. So this is clearly desperation, and also completely beyond my realm of understanding, because I truly don't understand how young people are relating to this creepy old man. And reportedly, the Biden campaign is going to take advanced safety precautions with this account, but they also made a point to make it clear that this is not Biden's account, it's his campaign's account. So therefore, it's not a violation of the restrictions that he put on federal government accounts. Stephanie, like, the hypocrisy is fucking real.
Total hypocrisy. Total hypocrisy. Like, as usual, rules for thee, but not for me. But okay, we've got to talk about the funniest thing. Did you see his profile picture?
Oh, yes.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. It's a black and white photo of him with red glowing eyes. And like, I'm sure they're trying to go for the whole like dark Brandon look, but anyone like me that's like a conspiracy theorist just immediately sees that and is like, demon, satanic, Illuminati. Like, what? Like, why would you choose that as your profile pic? So crazy. It looks like a spoof account or something. Just like, I don't know who chose that, but it was stupid. So I thought it'd be fun to go through some of the comments on TikTok because most of them were terrible. But then something interesting happened, Tara. So earlier in the day, when you sent me his new account, like I was looking through all the comments and just like all of his other social media accounts, 98% of the people were making fun of him or just downright hateful towards him. But then later in the evening, when I went to look back through the comments to do notes for the show, all I saw were like all these blue hearts and like, oh, Joe Biden's so great and all this like love and support for him. So I'm pretty damn sure that those comments are coming from his staff and they probably have someone full time like regulating the comment section because we all know that no one loves Biden that much. And I mean, even the people that voted for him did so because they hated Trump, not because they're excited about Biden. I did find a few though. So we have a new name for him, which is Butcher Biden, as well as the good old Genocide Joe that's still alive and strong. And then there were some funny comments on the Super Bowl post calling out his mental acuity. Someone wrote, "Don't forget your password, Joe," like on his new TikTok account. Another person said, "How many takes to make this?" Which I thought the same thing because I think they did that Super Bowl video to try and make it seem like, oh, he's just on it answering all these questions. But you know, that probably took like multiple takes and they probably clipped so many videos together to make it seem like he was coherent. Um, and then someone else put, "I'm sure you got tired of answering all those questions." Someone else wrote, "I'm not sure if he knows what game or what day it is." So I guess like those were the more mild comments that weren't, deleted. But then he posted a video of one of Trump's rallies where Trump was talking about how he stood up to NATO and told them they better pay their fair share. And I think they were trying to like post that, insinuating that Russia invading Ukraine was all Trump's fault, but it did not land because every single comment was pro Trump. So I have it pulled up and I thought we would just read a few. So one guy quotes or comments, "Yes, a man that puts America first," like talking about Trump. "Great ad to keep supporting him. Thank you. Trump puts America first. Trump, yeah, a man that can remember what he said. Trump train, America first. When your post backfires on you." And there is just like one after the other, just like that. Like literally no love for Joe Biden, but lots of love for Trump. So it'll be interesting, like in a few hours, to look back and see if they delete all these comments.
How many followers does he have now? I'm curious if it's grown since that what I cited from that article on Monday, because that was like at 30,000.
He has 85.9 thousand followers.
Okay.
And the Super Bowl like post got 7.3 million views, but then his other videos are only at like 200,000.
I have to assume that people are following him just so they can get like humorous content like to send to their friends.
Like
I can't
us. Like
imagine.
that's why I'm
Yes.
following him.
Yes. Exactly, exactly. And like he is getting ripped by Republicans, but they're doing it on X, not on TikTok, probably because they're not allowed to use TikTok.
Yep.
So, as reported by The Blaze, my boyfriend Josh Hawley wrote, quote, "Biden campaign bragging about using a Chinese spy app, even though Biden signed a law banning it on all federal devices," end quote. Rep. Daryl Issa from California wrote, quote, "Panic is when the Biden campaign joins TikTok after the White House banned the app from devices a year ago," end quote. South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem said, quote, "Hey, at Joe Biden, you've done a lot of dumb things over the last 3 years. Handing your data over to the Chinese may be the dumbest," end quote. And then Rep. Mike Waltz from Florida posted, quote, "Nothing like giving the CCP all the data from a presidential campaign. Open invitation for election influence," end quote.
Oh, totally. But I mean, they already have all of Joe Biden's data because, like you said earlier, he's beholden to them, just like
Right.
fight dances. So on the Super Bowl post, I did see the same comment over and over again where people were saying, "What happened in Rafah tonight, Genocide Joe?" And I hadn't heard anything about it. So I did some searching and found a few articles about a refugee camp being bombed in Israel. And it's being dubbed the Super Bowl Massacre. So Israel raided and bombed the refugee camp that was a designated safe zone to rescue two hostages. And in doing so, they killed 67 innocent people and wounded dozens. And according to the article in The Independent, Netanyahu is planning more rescue operations like this despite the high death toll. So, a lot of comments are about this on every single one of his posts. So, Biden better do something if he wants this whole pro-Palestinian crowd to vote for him, because it's pretty much everyone on the left and even people on the right now that are seeing the level of bombing and complete annihilation of the Palestinian people. So he's got like a big battle to win with those people because they are not happy with him whatsoever.
Yeah, but have you seen the articles talking about how he's been calling Netanyahu an asshole and a fucking bad guy, and he's doing it behind closed doors?
But I thought he was this like sweet, gentle old man.
Right? Yeah, exactly. I saw some of these last week, but I think it's being highlighted more now after this most recent bombing and like all these calls to Biden's lack of cognitive awareness. And there was an article in the New York Post on Monday, and it was reporting insiders are saying Biden has called Netanyahu an asshole on at least 3 occasions, and he's told Democratic donors in private conversations that Netanyahu has been hammering him over the White House criticizing aspects of Israel's assault on Gaza. And so, as usual, KJP tries to cover for Biden with a convoluted response of nonsense. So, she was being asked by a reporter about this, and let's hear what she had to say.
Prime Minister Netanyahu, quote, has been a pain in my ass lately, or, quote, he's been killing me lately. The reason we don't know what the exact quote is because the press was not in that meeting that the president had with these donors. Why is the president not living up to his full transparency pledge in terms of opening all meetings with donors to the press?
So I think that, so when the first of all, I want to be careful. These are campaign events. So I just want to be mindful. Can't speak to each of them. Well, really, most of them. I know that, and as you know, when the president does speak in front of, when he does do some of these fundraising events, right? There is when he gives remarks, formal remarks. The press pool is in there, and they are listening to the remarks and get to hear directly what the president says. So I think that's also very important. I don't want to make it sound like he does not. There is not a process there. That when he is in front of donors giving formal remarks, that you all are not in the room as he's speaking. I can't speak to this particular scenario. I think that is something certainly he does have private meetings. That is true. And when he has those private meetings, so that there's candor and honesty, and so that he can hear directly from folks, those tend to be private. But I want to be really careful here in speaking into every scenario that happens, because I can't speak to that particular scenario.
Should the president of the United States be engaging privately with a random set of financial donors about issues that are of clear public import, like his opinion of the Israeli
I hear your question, but the president has private meetings all the time. He does. He has private meetings all the time. And
these aren't foreign leaders, right? These are people who are giving money to him.
yeah, I hear you, but he has private meetings with everyday people. Some of these donors have, and I want to be super mindful here, have concerns, right? As well, just like everyday American people that he has private meetings with or he sees on the road. It's not every meeting it's going to be public, but when he gives remarks at fundraisers, there is formal remarks. There is the press pool tends to be in the room or is in the room. Private meetings are different. And so that's the way it's been for the past 3 years on this administration. Look, I want to be really careful. These are campaign, obviously, some of them campaign DNC related meetings. So I just want to be super, super mindful here.
Distinction between formal.
Private meetings, Stephanie. Private
He
meetings.
is floundering. Like
My God,
someone
I know.
throw her a life vest. My
It
God.
was painful. It was painful to listen to. Like, absolutely painful. And like, obviously, he has lost a lot of support in the polls, right? With his genocide Joe voter demographic. And I don't think we covered this when it happened, but he was in Virginia campaigning for abortion rights a couple weeks ago. And he was giving this 22-minute speech that was interrupted at least a dozen times by protesters demanding a ceasefire in Gaza. I mean, on one hand, I'm sure it was a welcome break for people, because I can't imagine having to listen to him mumble incoherently for 22 minutes. I can barely stomach like a 30-second clip, but obviously he's lost a lot of the votes.
Oh, it's bad. And yeah, like his bumbling through things and, getting angry like that and yelling out, like it's happening over and over again. And I mean, there is just no way between that and his dementia that they're going to put him out there more, like people were suggesting. They're going to have to just lock him in the basement again. I mean, there's no hope for the guy at this point. Like, throw him in the basement, throw away the key. He's done. That's my opinion.
Yeah, and I think the campaign to get him out of office is totally ramping up. And we talked about this on Monday's podcast, but I want to play this clip from Rep. Matt Gaetz. He was being interviewed by Newsmax yesterday, and this is what he had to say.
Let's bring in Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz to give us his assessment of the last 4 or 5 days. Wow, Congressman, wow. That her report, that prime time fumbling of, hey, I'm okay, watch, and then he fumbles it. What are they going to do? What do you think they're going to do on the left?
I don't think we're having much of a discussion of 4 more years. Let's just look at the next 4 days. We've heard the White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre say that in the next 4 days, Joe Biden has 0 public events. 0 things happening. There's literally more programming going on in the dementia wing at every assisted living facility in Florida than there is at the White House right now. And you've got this special counsel report saying that the reason Joe Biden was not charged for his violations of federal criminal law, which were intentional and recorded, because he cooperated with his own government. Wow, really, really give it to him there, cooperating with your own government. And then they're arguing that his brain is too rotted out to be held responsible for those violations of federal criminal law. So most Americans are probably right to ask, if you can't be held responsible for your violations of the law, should you have, I don't know, the nuclear codes or all of the exquisite powers of the presidency to protect our troops and to lead our country? It's no wonder we're seeing this rising inflation, this listlessness around the world. Joe Biden is obviously a man in decline, and I don't believe that we ought to have to join him in that decline. But there's another tell here, Eric. I came on your program January of 2023, and I said that I believed this document case would be the basis that the deep state would use to replace Biden.
Well, I'll tell you what
you
we'll
boldly
do.
predicted he won't be the nominee. Here's the tool.
Let's do it. Let's take a look. Let's play it out.
I have a different take on the document scandal than many. I actually think the deep state has figured out that Joe Biden isn't going to win the 2024 election against any Republican that's nominated, and they just prefer to take him out right now.
I agree with you. I've said this from the beginning. This isn't a mistake by Biden. This is the insiders who are realizing that he can't win, and they're bouncing him before 2024. I'm sorry to interrupt. Go ahead, Chuck.
No, we all know that the real shot caller in the Biden White House is Ron Klain, and I don't think that it's somehow a coincidence that right aligned with these new discoveries of documents, Ron Klain is leaving. I think he's a professional operator and is getting out of the White House as they send somebody else in to tidy up the Biden presidency and put a bow on it and get ready for their next generation of leadership.
I think they do it, Matt. Do you think they wait till the convention
Eric,
and go for it? What's the plan? What are they doing?
This is the dispositive proof that if people watch the balance, they will actually be able to see the future. Exactly what we described there is what's happening. But the reason they've had to wait from then until now is the deep state doesn't want to mess with the formalities of primaries or caucuses. They just want to be able to install their preferred choice at the convention. And so they've got to plant these opportunities for themselves to discredit Biden through this report. But then they can't have it all dissolve now, because you would have people like Newsom and Whitmore and all them getting into the contest. At the end of the day, isn't it going to be pretty hard for them to jump over Kamala Harris? I mean, she's the vice president. Some believe that it's actually her incompetence that functions as some sort of insurance policy for Biden, because it would be hard to skip her. But I think it'll put the Democrats in a lot of disarray. This notion they're going to cleanly come around Michelle Obama or Newsom, I don't know if I buy it.
Very precarious position.
What do you think about that?
Yeah. Spot on. It's what we've been saying. Like, this was the plan the whole time. They're ready to get rid of him. So what better way than with the classified document thing, highlighting his, mental dysfunction and, waiting till the last minute. And then that way, just like he said, they don't have to deal with the formalities of primaries. They can bring in their new star, which of course will be Michelle Obama. And I'm betting we're going to see a lot of people on the left coming forward and denouncing Biden in the coming weeks. I mean, it's already happening. Even the New York Times has said it and posted about it now. So I don't know, but I kind of do hope they bring him out more because it'll just continue to show a crystal clear picture of how inept he is to run the country.
That's why I thought it was interesting when he said that KJP said he has nothing on his schedule for the next few days. Like,
Yeah,
like that's going to help. Like it's already out there, right?
right.
But as usual, I have one more clip I want to play. This one from Real AF. And this is from yesterday's episode. And Andy and DJ were talking about how Biden is the fall guy to achieve the left's agenda, which we've discussed many times, and why now is the perfect time to get rid of him.
And so we have a bunch of people who have captured the White House and installed some guy who is totally unfit for office, but the perfect fall guy for the destruction of America in many different ways. Because when you destroy America, if this man was up there and he looked like Gavin Newsom and he spoke like Gavin Newsom, people would not give him the benefit of the doubt. They wouldn't say, hey, this guy's just senile, he's old, he's well-meaning, he's an elderly guy. And that's what's giving him the pass for the disruption and the damage that he's creating. People on the left who are not in on it, so to speak, they're not that far progressive communist type person. They're just Democrats or left-leaning people that want to, have a life and be left alone. Those people are now seeing that it's very clear that this man is not running things. All right. So we have to ask why is that? Why are they showing that? And it's because they want to get rid of him. And they want people to give him the pass, right? Like, dude, do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like if we took
We've said this multiple times.
if we took a mentally competent person and they destroyed and dismantled America the way that Biden has, people would call for his head on a fucking stake. But because he's old and he's senile, people give him a pass.
Yep.
And so the people who are on the left, who are Democrats, that are not like in on the play, those people are not freaking out because they're like, man, he's just old. I agree what he's doing is messed up. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've had this conversation with people on the left. They're like, dude, he's a piece of shit. We get it. But Trump's not any better. Like, that's where they always go, is to Trump. They can't criticize. They can't take accountability for the state of the country without bringing it back to Trump, which is unfortunate. But the truth of the matter is like, dude, this guy is the perfect fall guy.
Yeah.
Okay. And they've destroyed a lot of what needed to be destroyed. And they don't need him anymore because they've got us on the path of demoralization and destabilization, which are two of the communist priorities. So that's what I think. I think he's the perfect fall guy. I think they put him in. I think there's a lot of people behind the scene pulling the strings. I mean, KJP fucking runs his Twitter. She tweeted a tweet from her Twitter that was supposed to be on his Twitter and vice versa a few different times.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, like these people have decided that they are the moral authority, that they know the way, and they don't give a fuck if the average American disagrees. They don't care if the people who are, out here in the real world suffer. They want their way and they're going to get their way. And that's what we're dealing with. And now they're done with this guy because he's damaged the country in the way that he needed to damage it. And now they're looking to bring in someone else. And they're probably going to bring in someone else like who's going to destroy the country worse that, can be protected in another way. Like, for example, if Kamala would become president because Joe gets removed, you won't be able to criticize her. Otherwise, you're a racist. Otherwise, you're a misogynist. Otherwise, you're sexist. Otherwise, you're this, you're that, you're this. So there's other ways to protect her that there are not with Joe Biden. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, but really, dude, I don't think culture gives a fuck about that stuff anymore. I think people are over this shit. I think they understand what's going on. When people have a hard time eating and a hard time paying their bills, and people come out and say misogyny and racist and bigotry, people are like, fuck you, man. Like, they only care about that shit when things are good and they can eat and they're not starving. Now people are like, bro, we're not falling for that shit anymore. So it's going to be interesting to see how this shakes out. But I think they're done with him. And I think they put him out there on purpose to look like the way he looked and to show his mental instability.
Can we get a prediction? I mean, obviously, this being the election year, I mean, how soon? I feel like if they're getting rid of him, it has to be soon, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
it has to be soon. They can't wait until like the very
Well, I
last
mean, look,
minute.
dude, when did all the chaos happen in 2020?
March.
It happened in March. I
March.
think we're approaching the time where the chaos is about to be cranked up.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be along the similar timeline. I would be very surprised if we don't have some major disturbances happen in the next 60 days.
So I guess we'll see what happens.
As sick as we are of talking about Biden, I think he's right. I think there's going to be a lot of things happening in the next 60 days, and we're going to have to talk about him.
Yeah. And in the meantime, Biden just continues to do more and more embarrassing, detrimental shit. Like on Monday, there was a press conference at the White House with the King of Jordan, and it was about the conflict in Israel. And you can literally see Biden on camera looking completely confused about where to stand while the king's preparing to give a speech. And Benny Johnson described him as looking like a lost puppy, right? And so King Abdullah is also confused because Biden's behind him and he's supposed to be standing by where there's apparently a marker on the floor for where he's supposed to be. But Biden couldn't figure out where to stand and he ends up on the opposite side and it's like everyone's confused. And I don't know who the fuck is advising his campaign strategy, but it takes cringe to a whole new level. And so once again, I have to question, is this purposeful? Because it's beyond ridiculous. Like the post they put out on X on Super Bowl Sunday and what Biden is calling shrinkflation. Like, did you see that, Stephanie?
Yeah. So talk
Yeah.
about hypocrisy. Like, what is he thinking?
Yeah. For anyone who didn't see it, he's sitting alone in a movie theater and he's surrounded by snacks. And it's all like name brand shit. There's Gatorade and Doritos and Breyer's ice cream and Oreos and Tostitos. And he's mumbling about how companies are putting less chips in the bag and less ice cream in the carton, and sports drink containers are getting smaller, but the prices are staying the same. And then he gets angry and says that Americans are getting ripped off. And if you're not getting as much for your money as you used to, it's because the companies are trying to pull a fast one and shrinking the products little by little, hoping that you won't notice. And he's had enough of this shrinkflation. So he's calling on big consumer brands to put a stop to it. And the whole thing was just ridiculous. But I love the description I read in Reason. It called the post, quote, economically illiterate and politically confusing. And it went on to explain, yes, this is a real phenomenon, one that most Americans dislike. It is obviously a direct consequence of inflation. If the marginal cost of producing every chip goes up because potatoes or corn or labor gets more expensive, then a bag of 100 chips is either going to cost slightly more or become a bag of 90 chips and cost the same. As a political matter, this video is effectively a flashing sign telling voters, hey, did you think inflation was less bad now? Actually, it's still happening, end quote.
Yeah, I know. I was watching it and I'm like thinking, yeah, Joe, we're well aware. We're well aware that a bag of chips is $5 and it's half the size that it was a few years ago. And we're well aware that cereal is $8 a box. Like, I think about it every time I grocery shop. And I mean, it's just like, who decided this was a good idea? Again, was it purposeful? Because this was beyond stupid. Like, this would have been good if it was Trump saying that, because it is making the point that his policies that are causing inflation are causing this like shrinkflation, as he's calling it. But it's like, I could see him not remembering or connecting the dots that like that's what's happening, that the mass inflation is caused by him. But someone on his staff would know and would be like looking over this before they put it out there. So it's got to be on purpose. It just doesn't make sense that they would do something so stupid. And you bring up a good point that there's all these different brands. Like, I hope every single one of those brands sues the shit out of him, because no other person would be able to do that without getting sued for like defamation. But
Yeah.
I mean, this is just typical Biden, though. It's like, as usual, he's just going to blame someone else for the problems he caused. And so in this case, he's going to blame the food companies. And it's just like when he was on a rant last year where he was talking about the hidden resort fees and airline fees, when it's like most Americans can't even afford a plane ticket or a hotel room right now. You know, it's just so freaking tone deaf. And so I came across a Newsweek article that said in December, Senator Bob Casey released a report that showed the impact of these smaller product sizes. And the report noted that household paper products were 34.9% more expensive per unit than they were in January of 2019, with about 10.3% of the increase due to producers shrinking the sizes of rolls and packages. And the report also showed a lot of the snacks that he had sitting with him, like Oreos and Doritos were up 26.4% in that same period. Shrinking portions accounted for like 9.8% of the increase. And let's not forget the big elephant in the room. Inflation is the highest it's been in 40 years. So for Biden to just sit there and act like, oh, he's just a regular guy that's, annoyed with the economy, it is totally confusing and it's weird. And it's not a message that anyone wanted to hear from him. So I'll also add one last thing that in that whole video that they made, they didn't offer a solution. Like he didn't say like vote for me and I'll do XYZ. Like there was no solution to the problem he created, just bitching and moaning from the last person that should be bitching and moaning about it.
Yeah, because it's not his problem. It's the producers that created
Yeah, blame
shrinkflation,
Doritos.
aka called Bidenflation, because
Right.
he's the one that fucking did it. But just to ease everyone's mind, like if you are worried about what's going to happen if Grandpa Biden takes another fall, which is fairly likely because he had yet again another incident over the weekend where he bumped his head exiting Marine One after flying back from DC to Delaware. So, I mean, it can't be far off, right? But Kamala is ready and waiting to take the reins. She sat down with the Wall Street Journal on Monday and she was asked if she thought voter concerns about Biden's age means that she has to convince people that she's ready to serve. And her reply was, quote, I am ready to serve. There's no question about that. Everyone who sees me on the job walks away fully aware of my capacity to lead, end quote. Once again, hard to say with a straight face.
Okay, everyone who sees her on the job is probably having a panic attack right now, realizing she's the next one in line. I mean, at least Biden has his old age and dementia that he can use as an excuse, but like, what's her excuse? Because she can't speak either. I mean, she can't get through one sentence without that cackle or saying something completely nonsensical. So I mean, it is entertaining. It'll probably give us a lot of funny content, but good God, this is scary. I could see her like setting up an obstacle course in front of Joe, like trying to take him out. Cause I mean, one more fall, that guy I don't know if he's going to make it. He's so frail.
Yeah, but that's where I feel like I'm questioning the timing of everything because the elections aren't until November. They're not going to hold, like an election to get another candidate in there. They're just going to replace him. But they have to time it so that Kamala isn't running the country for the next, 7 months because that would be beyond disastrous.
Well, I've been thinking the same thing, but I think what they're trying to do is like we've talked about before. They don't want it to be in the primaries because they don't want the voters to choose. So it's got to be after the primaries, but before the conference, the Democratic conference. But if Kamala is in place, they're not going to just let her run country. It'll be the deep state, it'll be the uniparty that will tell her what to do until they bring in their choice, their candidate. So that's what I think. Like, I don't think it's really going to be her making any decisions. It's going to be, whoever you want to put as the head, but the deep state.
Well, you have a point there because no matter who is in that position, it is the deep state that's running it. So I guess it doesn't matter if it's Biden or Kamala or Michelle
She's
Obama.
ready. She is ready. You better believe she is like visualizing Biden like oh boy. Well, we'll keep everyone up to date because I'm sure there's going to be some interesting things when he comes out of hiding for the next 4 days. So we'll let everyone know. And thanks for tuning in. We'll see you back here on Friday. If you're sick of all the crazy shit going on in our country and you want to express your support and patriotism for the show, head on over to our Etsy store at UO Patriot Chicks and check out our new stickers. The link can also be found on our website. If you love the show and you want exclusive episodes, support the podcast and join the conversation by becoming a member of our Patreon community. We'll be posting weekly member-only podcast episodes and content that isn't available on the weekly podcast. Every Patreon member will also get a free Unapologetically Outspoken sticker and updates about our new sticker release before they're made public. And be sure to follow us on TikTok at Unapologetically Outspoken. And if you haven't done so already, please rate and review the podcast. The more you support us, the more people we can reach. So help us spread the word.